Oh, that's it? Oh man, you're just a baby. I mean, it's good. Yeah, EJ, what's up?
A little frustrated this morning. I wanted to get up and come here earlier because I thought that I'd be able to observe erosion around the campus. But not only are the gutters really, really good, I was working on my buddy's car until about 10 o'clock last night. So I didn't get up as early as I wanted to come here.
What was wrong with the car?
He needed to replace his shock absorbers and his tie rod assembly, which is a component that helps you steer good. And we got one shock absorber on. We almost got two of them on, but to make a long story short, the replacement that we were going to use is now destroyed, so we have to get another one. Such as what? And we had to put the old one back on, but it no longer fit, so I had to give him a ride home too. Yeah.
You work real hard?
I do. That's my main class, and I don't need to learn how to work hard.
I need help. My lids won't over on the Volkswagen. The dealership broke the handle and took the wire off.
Oh
So
no.
I have two latches, and then in the front, they can't get the other one out. There's two latches, so I have to break it. I don't want to go through that.
Don't, yeah. Yeah.
Do you see, Leah,
Class.
what adults have to go through?
You're the cheaters.
I have 3 cars and all of these. How can I do that?
Sure. Sure. Like,
I had a work that was
Hello, Sarah.
hello?
What's going on?
It's soup season, man. I'm happy. It's cold. The dog days of summer are over. I'm here for it. I get to wear a hat. Nice. Warm and toasty.
Yeah? Yeah?
I don't have to bring a backpack. My pockets in this jacket are so big I can put everything in.
That's right.
Jordan, what's going on? Oh yeah, why? Okay. When I was your age, I got a job at Caltrans. Hello. And you know, they were going to pay about 75,000 a year. Immigrant, you're only like 20. It's a big chunk of money. And my only job was data entry. You know, they give you a cubicle. You know, you put this headphone on and hello, and you just punch in the information. Then during lunch break, I look to my right and this guy is like putting lotion on his arm. I look to my left and there is this like 70-year-old woman smoking. I said, man, is this where I want to end up? And so the following day, I just didn't go. I stayed at the car wash and just washed cars. So sometimes it's good to just, sometimes, not all the time, just to walk away. Right, Tiffany? There you go, see? So what do you guys want to talk about today? Anything fun, interesting? Is that Lovell? Oh, you look colorful. I said you look colorful. Yeah. How are you? Oh, good. Yeah, how old are you? For those of you who like tea, a good friend, Queen, has made some tea. You know, when class ends, just come up and grab yourself. Just grab yourself some tea. Maybe I should finish the sentence. Oh man, Lavelle, you live at home with your parents? By yourself? Okay. You have a companion? You have a companion? A few. Oh, my neck. Okay, good luck. Yeah. Spoken like a true man. Yeah. None of them are edible. So, Leah, let's start with you. Anything we should talk about?
When we were, sorry, when we realize that people we once idealized were never who we perceive them to be, is it possible to regain the love that ignorance allowed us to do, or is the loss of love needed?
Can I tell you a story, Leah? I don't know, it may not even be related to your question, because I didn't really hear your question or understand it, but we'll just wing it, see where it goes. Can you repeat your question?
Sorry, I
It's okay, we have time.
when we realize that people we once idealized were never who we perceive them to be,
Whoa, wait a minute. Looks good. I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, yes, I got it. Okay. There is a book you may have heard of. It's called The Panarium. And in that particular book, there's a story about Jesus and Mary Magdalene. You don't need to write this down. This will just be burnt in your memory. I don't know how true the story is in any of the Gospels, including this one, but supposedly Mary asks Jesus how she could experience God and how she could hang out with Jesus a little bit in a more intimate, not sexually, just spiritually. So, and Jesus is known to be very creative. I mean, read the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and every time you ask him a question, he just tells you a story. He just wings it. And so, in the book, it suggests that Jesus pulls down his pants and begins to masturbate and reaches climax. And then whatever liquid is in his hand, he puts it in his mouth and then swallows it. And then turns to Mary Magdalene and says, "This is what you must do if you want to reach the kingdom of God."
There's no way.
If you read, for example, the Infancy Gospels, another set of books that the Catholic Church spared us from, the story is that lots of stories like this in those particular books where Jesus is like this, 7, 8, 9-year-old tall kid. He has all these magical powers. The kids are mean to him. They're playing on top of this tree, sitting on the branches. One of the kids looks at Jesus in a very mean-spirited way, and Jesus, like Harry Potter, goes like this, and the child falls from the branch, breaks his neck or dies, and the family comes, they're like grief-stricken, and Jesus breathes life into him. And but the book is about how mean this kid was, as well as some of his nice qualities. And I suppose the point I'm trying to make is there is something about us. There is something about us that we desire perfection. I mean, the idea that Elijah Muhammad did all those things with women, but Malcolm X didn't know. And at a certain point he came to know, and that knowing troubled him. Something happened to Malcolm's perception and relationship with Elijah Muhammad. He wanted someone who's not human. Consider someone like Mahatma Gandhi. I don't know how much you know of not Thomas Edison, but Albert Einstein. He was a womanizer. He was worse than Hugh Hefner. And the point I'm trying to make is not so much what these people did, but what we desire ourselves, which is we are looking for someone whose purity and honesty and integrity is without question. I don't want to think of Jesus Christ as a human being because, I know what it means to be a human being. I know what it feels to be a human being. I am one of them, filled with flaws. If I want to, and I want to worship someone. I don't know if you've ever fallen in love, but one of the nice things that happen to all of us in this class when you fall in love, for the first 2-3 weeks, man, you feel as if this person you've just met and you have all these intense and intimate feelings towards, they don't use the bathroom, they never lie, they never smell, everything about them is just perfect. If they tell you that they're going to call you and they don't, it's probably for a good reason. If they say all these nasty things to you, hello, that's probably for a good reason, And then little by little, time enters. And then you begin to see, all the human parts of them. So, the less depth someone has, the sooner you'll be expelled from the Garden of Eden you've created for yourself. The more depth someone has, the more time it's going to take for the human elements to be seen by you. If I was to give you a very, very personal experience, I would tell you the following. I was probably like 18 or 19 when I met my own teacher. Big, hefty man who had a deli, a Persian mini mart. I didn't see him as a human being for the next 10 years until I was 30. Everything about him was just absolute perfection. I worshiped this man. His home was my promised land. The way he would give commentary to the Quran, the way he would make commentary to the poetry about philosophies of life. He was like the embodiment of what you call God. That's what happens when you kind of begin to worship another human being. Then once you gain some autonomy, once you're able, and by that I mean you have enough of your teacher inside you that you begin to think like him, break food or information or experiences, break them down very much the way he does. And so in that sense, you become a bit more autonomous, a bit more independent. It's like at the beginning, you want your father to hold the bike because you're just learning how to ride it. At a certain point, you just look at your father and say, let go of the bike. I think I can do it on my own. And lo and behold, there you are on your own. And intellectually, it's very much the same. Spiritually, it's almost the same. You know, you come to a place where you can just do things on your own. And the moment you're able to stand on your own 2 feet, you know, now you can be a bit more objective, you can be a bit more detached, and then you look out and say, well, you know, he's not as patient as I thought him to be. And what I can tell you is that the last 30 years of my relationship with him, after which time he just became a family friend, and we played music and we sang and we did all sorts of things, I began to see things about him that made me question myself. Why did I like this man in the first place? You know. So as long as someone remains a mystery, you know, and the mystery happens to have a lot of positive qualities to it, they're not human. I mean, there's a reason why we continue to write about books about Jesus or Moses or Muhammad or the Buddha. First, because it's long, long time ago. We don't really have facts about any of these people. So what we do, we create mysteries. We create fantastic stories. And when you create stories, you leave out the part that's human. I mean, look, Jesus has to eat. He has a physical body. Whether he eats 1 nut a day, you know, or a loaf of bread, who the hell cares? But the point is, if you eat, your physical organism needs to get rid of some stuff. Does he pee? Yeah. Does he shit? Yeah. And if you believe him to be God, does that mean that God shits? The answer is yes. But we don't think of it that way because it destroys or disturbs the image of perfection that we have of him. You know. So my recommendation, Leah, is that if you find anyone, whether romantically or professionally, and if you fall in love with someone, or you have a friend or a teacher or a therapist, try as long as you possibly can to keep these unrealistic stories and protect them. Because once that dam breaks, the only thing you see is insufficiencies, is just being a human being. It's something that Freud had mentioned. We worship our parents. I mean, look at that hair. That is what you call a mess? You know, they're everything to you. For hopefully some of us. You know, then little by little cracks begin to appear in the relationship. You know, you begin to see them lose their patience. They become frustrated. Their own insufficiency in life leads them to do things that, you know. And so little by little you become less dependent on them. Yeah. Find someone in their 30s or 40s or 50s, whether a man or a woman. Like the way they think and feel about things. Enjoy their perspectives about life. Follow them. Worship them. Do whatever they say. Then when you grow your own wings, then you can look back and then realize that a good amount of things about them was just wrong. But by then, you know, you have gained a good amount of maturity, you graduate from school, you have some money in your pocket, great relationship, but now you can see. So, yeah, Queen.
Afterlife. And a lot of people who had near-death experience saw God or whatever, and that he didn't speak any language that was of the earth, but they understood what he was saying. So I said that to say, how is anything in the Bible, if no one spoke the language that he spoke, and the language is so old, how do we know anything that they're saying in the dialect that we read today is even true? And I have a personal experience too, you know, from sometimes.
You guys are crazy. So, before we wrestle with your question, Leah, hello. Yeah, it's good to see you. So, I was going to tell you a story, but I changed my mind. I don't think I'm in the mood to talk about religion or divine experiences or out of body experiences or near death experiences. But it's something that some of us in this class, hopefully many of us in this class, have experienced, which is there is this place called the Rose Garden in Berkeley. You know, it's on top of this hill. There are some tennis courts there, and there's some benches on the top, and you look down, all these wonderful flowers. And you get a glimpse of the entire city, and it's beautiful. And sometimes you go there with a companion, but they don't know that you like them, you know. But as you're going uphill, you stop by this place called Bongo Burger. It's like Persian burgers. And so you go there, you sit, and the sun is just setting, and it's beautiful. And your mood in regards to your companion, the mood that's created by the surrounding, the sun slowly setting, there is a fullness about you that you feel. And you realize that there is no that there is really no need for language. You just sit there. And all you want is just your shoulders to be touching your companion's shoulder. And when they ask you how you're doing, there is no reason to reply. In fact, most often they won't even ask you. Both of you feel the same way. Is it true at certain points we have experiences that make us full? The answer is yes. Does language remove that fullness? The answer is yes. Do you feel as if using language will contaminate the feelings? The answer is yes. Is your silence filled with perfection and beauty? The answer is yes. The problem is it won't last very long, you know. There is this other aspect to your question, which is part of, I think, the Western psyche, which impacts some people, you know, in a more intimate, intense way. One of the things you need to understand about progress is the following. The West has a progress, but it's outward. It's more towards technology. It's more towards the physical world, okay? And consequently, because of this particular technology, it pushes people outward. Making better cars, making better phones, making better houses, buying better clothes. That's the way people are. Then you have certain cultures that are inward. And this has nothing to do with you. You're irrelevant. The culture is like going on this path, okay? So the West, after the about maybe 14th, 15th century, has been focused outwardly. It's all about evolution and progress in a very physical, tactile way. In India, in China, in the Middle East, that hasn't been the case. It's more inward. So what you have is two very, very different kinds of evolution, progress. Okay. In the West, because of the push of technology and just the way it impacts human psyche, religion and religious experiences have always been in the footnotes, very, very small print. It's like when you want to buy a car or buy a house. The prints are so small you can't even see them. Add to it the fact that because of advancements in neuroscience and neuropsychology, what we have now come to discover is that there are in fact certain parts of your brain that if pushed, visual cortex, you will begin to experience certain things. And when this Indian sage by the name of Krishnamurti came to America, one of the things that he had argued is that if you're Muslim, you will dream of Muhammad. If you're Christian, you will dream of Jesus. If you're a Buddhist, you will dream of the Buddha. And his point was that your culture creates all these stories for you. And then you have no choice but to believe in those stories. Now, is it good to doubt, to be skeptical, to question what you experience? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. It's kind of like going back to Leah's question. The more you know, the less you can believe in fairy tales. The more you know, the more grounded you can be. You know, it's like initially you're going to be a mother. You have all these fantasies about being a mother. Then you deliver a child, and all of a sudden your eyes open to the ways Oakland is. Public schools and, you know, various other components. And all of a sudden it's like someone takes you out of this paradise and throws you into hell and says, look around you. This is danger zone. Public school, private school. You want to live in East Oakland or you want to go to Montclair? Do you have money or do you not have money? And all of a sudden, okay, that's the problem with knowing. That's the problem with knowledge. It has a tendency of pushing you out. There was a story some years ago, and this is not to dismiss your experiences. Those are private, and if they work for you, they work for you. They're wonderful. And I think we may have talked about the story in class, I don't know. You know, there is this woman who has these experiences sitting next to Jesus, talking to him, having dreams about him. And then one day she has this headache. She goes to the hospital and they say to her, there's a tumor in your brain and we need to take it out, otherwise you die. She says, okay, we'll take it out. He says, well, the problem with the tumor is that it's pushing against this part of your brain that creates certain experiences and certain visions. Okay, you are a nun. If you remove this tumor, it may be that you will no longer have any visions or experiences. If the tumor remains, you will continue to have experiences. Which path do you want to take? And the woman says, listen, I want to live. And you don't really know how you're going to be after certain experiences. So the tumor is taken out. She no longer has experiences. It's finished. And then she begins to doubt her faith. And she commits suicide. Okay. Do we need such experiences? Yeah. Do we need to make heroes out of people? Yeah. We are all desperate for meaning and belonging. The world is insufficient for us. There is a part of us that demands passion, intensity, relevance, significance. You know. I think look, language has, I suppose, 3 or 4 different benefits to it. There is a form of language that can be categorized as gossip, and gossip is important. Life is frightening. Life puts a lot of pressure on all of us. I ask you how you're doing, and you say, I got a flat tire this morning. Okay. Life is filled with frustration. So one of the ways that you express your emotions is through language. Now, I may not be really interested in your life, right? And I'm just asking you because I'm just trying to be respectful and polite. But because of the pent-up feelings and emotions that live inside you, you use that. And you gossip for the next 10 minutes about, EJ, you're not looking good today. What's going on? Well, I was working on a car until 10 o'clock at night, and the tires just broke and the steering wheel, fell off and, all that. Am I interested? No. Is he venting? Yeah. Am I going to listen to his vent? Yeah, yeah. You know, you're going through a divorce, your child dies, or, you know, whatever emotional crisis is. Then there is another aspect of language, which is you really have some questions. And when you use language, you live inside those questions. Your language is filled with passion, with pain, with frustration. And it's not about tables and chairs of life. They are existential. You know, I'm going through this crisis. What do I do? Okay. Then there is the language of someone who's been there, who's done that. And they're there as a guide, i.e. a teacher, i.e. a therapist, you know. So it really depends on where you are in life. If you have gossiped enough for the past like 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you're only looking to use language in a very specific way. Now, the moment you become a bit more specific, it means your circle of friends begin to shrink from 50 to about 5. And then near the end, you realize the only person you should really speak to is just yourself. And then if you happen to be really, really advanced, you begin to write. If you happen to be really, really advanced, you just, you know, become like Socrates. I'm not going to write because what is writing? You know, you put some ink on paper, it gets to be read, and it gets to be misunderstood. And the integrity of everything that you've written just falls away. You know. So. There was a book I mentioned last week in class, The Strange Life of Ivan Ossikin, written by a man named P.D. Ouspensky, a great teacher. But he wrote that book because he was suicidal. He had traveled to a lot of different places looking for wisdom. Eventually he found it in a man named Gurdjieff. And that's the problem, you know, you make Gurdjieff into a hero, and then little by little, time gets in, your eyes open, you begin to see flaws in someone's philosophy, and you put them up here, now they come down here. And you assume that you understand your own philosophies of life. At a certain point, you realize there are all these gaps and holes in your philosophy. And then you don't really know what to live for anymore. There are no teachers to worship. There are no teachers to look for. There are no books to read. There are no books to write. There are no things to listen to, and there are no things to say for anyone to listen to. And so near the end of his life, you just saw a very broken man, for the most part quiet, and who ultimately came on the stage and said, you know, this particular philosophy of life must be abandoned. It doesn't work. I think all of us in this class have short, good moments. You should take advantage of them. Remember them as often as you possibly can before they just fade into oblivion. Yeah, EJ.
Is there any merit in sobriety? Talking about how your life is composed of distractions and escapism for the most part, and that's just how people live, is by going through those emotions. Is there anything that really sets apart chemical distraction from the physical one? I mean, is there any reason? Is there any reason to be sober? Like, if your whole life is distractions, why not distract yourself as much as you can?
When you be sober, so what do you mean by sober? You mean like drugs and alcohol?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, that's what you meant?
Yeah.
Oh. What was the question? Is it better to be drunk?
Yeah, sure. Is there any moral reason not to be?
So, number one, there are certain brains and there are certain body types that a sip will make them into an addict. And it has nothing to do with your moral philosophy, how religious or not so religious you are, just certain bodies that soak this stuff up, and before you know it, 30 years pass by, and then you want to kind of sober up, but you can't. Okay. There are some body types and some brain types that can drink excessively but never become alcoholics. Okay. Number two, there are certain people who do drugs and alcohol and they have awful experiences, and there are certain people who do drugs and alcohol and they have great experiences. Jean-Paul Sartre, he did drugs, LSD, and he had nightmares. He said this is an awful thing, and anyone who does this is just bad. Then you have Aldous Huxley. He does drugs and he sees God. Okay? So there are no universals about this, good and bad, right and wrong. Different people with different types, they have different experiences, you know. For me, depression is really good. It's healthy for me. For me, it's healthy. Okay? For someone else, it can't be. Okay? So, now there are, and I'm going to use my good friend Sigmund Freud, because by the time you get to the 19th, 20th century, you have a brand new human being on your hand. By this time, especially in the West, you no longer believe in religion. There are no longer heroes to worship. You're no longer looking for happiness, which exists only after you die in the Garden of Eden, you know, in the presence of God. You have capitalism full force, the Industrial Revolution. You have people being given narratives that you can in fact find your soulmate in marriage. You can find a job that is the extension of your soul. You can create paradise down here on earth. Okay. For the first time, you also have this awful disease. It's called loneliness, lonely in a crowd. It happens around the 16th century or so, but fast forward. Okay. For those of you in this class who, I think it's World Health Organization, the #1 disease right now in the world is depression. It's not poverty. It's not cancer. It's depression. Okay. Lay?
I have a question. Do you think that that is because of the societal expectations that are placed on people?
No.
Or just like their personal choice?
No. I mean, it's a whole host of things. I don't know. It's
This is the first time you've been able to say, I don't know.
you know, I just don't know how to approach it because there's just so many factors, you know. I think you have to go to third world countries to experience what family unit looks like and family life feels like. There are no families here. You don't know what it feels like to be a family. You know, your parents are over there and divorce of the 60%, and there is the imposition of technology at the age of like 2. You're walking around with your cell phone, you're glued to the phone or playing video games. Then you have the frustration of your parents coming home from a busy day. They have to like hang out with 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds or 10-year-olds. It's just too much. Then you have a culture that just makes you unhappy. I mean, America, just any culture these days now, you just feel as if life doesn't have much to offer you and you don't have much to offer life. And you don't know what to talk to anybody about. There is like, you know, there was a book that came out, I don't know, 50 years ago by a close student of Sigmund Freud. It's called The Cry for Myth. You know, there was a time that you believed in marriage. There was a time you believed in God. There was a time you believed in education. There was a time you believed in like some goddamn thing out there. Right now, there is nothing to believe in. You know, you can't even know for sure if you're a man or a woman anymore. That if your sexual orientation is this way or that way anymore. I mean, everything is under attack. You know, and then, you know, you have kids who are like 7 or 8 in schools, and they have to process things that even adults can't process, which is, this is like, we're going to like push you into non-binary bathrooms. It's mixed. I'm 6. I'm 7. I'm a boy. I'm a girl. I don't want to like see another boy in the bathroom, but this is just where the culture goes, you know? And you come to realize you just, you know, it's like, what our good friend over says, do you have a companion? Yeah, I have a few. You know, it's like you drink milk, then you drink Kool-Aid, then you have like chow mein, then you have burger, and 10 minutes later you have diarrhea. You know, and that's what you have in a culture such as this. You know, there's just so many goddamn forces going on, and you have to just eat all of them. At the end of the day, you go home saying, what the fuck? You know, and then you wonder why people are like lonely and depressed. And the truth is, you just don't know what to do. You know, and I'm saying all this stuff because just a couple of days ago, I had to bury someone. And I had to bury them because they suffered from loneliness and depression. You know, and, you know, when you suffer from depression, your brain needs to hold on to something for meaning. I mean, as a human being, you are an engaged animal. You need to wake up for some fucking purpose. Even if it's going to the kitchen and cooking yourself some eggs. It doesn't matter what it is. You need to have a purpose. And what happens is, you know, your brain just keeps attacking you. And unless you have a support system, you know, it's like cancer. Your cells at a certain point keep attacking you, and you have radiation and you go to chemo because you need the opposite cells. You know, and you need a huge support system. If you want, for example, to remedy loneliness and depression, I mean, forget the habits. You just need like a humongous support system. You need like an entire tribe or a community. You know, and this day and age, everybody's busy, everybody has their own stuff to deal with. After a while, you know, you just give up. So, EJ, before we were rudely interrupted by Lay, you certainly did. I forgot your question. Oh yeah, being sober. Look, do we need to escape? Absolutely. You know. There was a guy, his name was Epicurus. After the death of Socrates, a couple of things happened in Western philosophy. And one of the branches that came out of philosophy was called hedonism. You know, go out there and just have fun with life. But one of the philosophies that came out of this wonderful mind of Epicure was the following. You know, you want to have sex, it's fun. Will it help you escape loneliness? Absolutely. You know, will it help you escape depression for 10 minutes? Definitely. You know, there is nothing wrong with having sex. Make sure you don't get pregnant. Because 10 minutes of sex could lead to about 20 years of misery. You want to have sex, have sex. Just make sure that the person you're having sex with doesn't have any diseases. You know, you want to drink once in a while, drink to escape. Just don't become an alcoholic. And what Epicure kind of reminded all of us in this class, that there is nothing wrong with having fun. The problem are the consequences. So if you want to have fun, you have to think, sit and say to yourself, okay, if I do this over and over again, what are the consequences? Do I want to like have fun for 10 minutes and be miserable for the next like 50 years? If the answer is no, then don't pursue that particular form of entertainment. And all of a sudden you realize even hedonism demands that before you engage in any sort of fun, sit and think about it very carefully. Be a great philosopher. Reflect on it. Having said that, I think you should read the works of the great 20th century prophet and philosopher, psychologist Sigmund Freud. One of the things that Freud tells us is the following. Look, first, you're born and nobody asked you if you want to come down here. You're a human being with insufficient tools, and it's going to take you a few lifetimes to figure out how to live. Second, the people you love most, your parents, your wife, your kids, you got to bury them, man. They'll either get sick, they'll either get old and sick, and they will die, and you got to bury them. And you will feel this hole inside you. And for the first time, you come to realize that everything about life is a lie. And that's devastating. And if you want to know what a lie is, go and read Hermann Hesse's book, Siddhartha. There is a scene where this kid, Siddhartha, who encounters the Buddha, he is so disgusted by life that he said, everything is a lie. My senses tell me this woman is attractive, but it's a lie. That the music is fun, it's a lie. That my body wants to dance, but it's a lie. Okay? Then look around you. All these people. They judge you on the way you dress. They judge you on the way you look. They judge you on the way you think. They judge you. Then you have a job. And you got to please someone you don't like, which is your boss. And you have to say thank you to customers you don't care for. And then you engage in a wrestling match with your companion for the next 20 years. Then you have to raise kids in a world that's filled with hostility. Even if you're good at all of those things in your own body, will eventually age. And little by little it'll crumble. Life is just filled with stress. So how do you cope with this? Well, for someone like Freud, who has seen, of course, World War I and II to some extent, sublimation. Drink a little. You'll forget your miseries. If you're not the type who likes to drink, well, smoke a little. And one of the things you need to understand about Freud, because he worked with a lot of mentally ill people, at the age of 16, they experimented with cocaine, this white, magical drug. He said, yeah, we have found the cure for all humanity's illness. And they realized, that first, it's a temporary solution to a problem that just doesn't go away. And it creates addiction, which burdens people some more. So he came to a point where he says drugs are no good and alcohol is no good. But there are ways where you can cope with the miseries and difficulties of life. If you happen to not be the type that enjoy drugs and alcohol, well, why don't you major in philosophy? Why don't you become religious? Why don't you become an artist? What can Mike Tyson do with all the anger that lives inside him? He is such a lucky man. It's good to see you. I can't tell you how lucky Mike Tyson is and was with all the shit that lived inside him, and for him to find a Messiah, Casamata, and for this old man to become interested in this young fart, to see the powerhouse that lives inside him and train him, and for Mike Tyson to fall in love with this old man with a different skin color, and to be disciplined by this old man, and to be 18 and all of a sudden become the world champion, but still. And so we have no choice, man. That's the reason why we have all these rituals. I don't know if there is a God. But I know that when someone dies, there's going to be a ritual. I'll be at the church for the next 40 days. No one's going to leave me alone. I'm not going to be in isolation. I'll have people around me every goddamn day. So this force, that I loved someone, this person died, and now there is this hole called meaninglessness in me. Now, I don't want to think about that all the time. As long as there are people around me, as long as there is gossip, slowly time will seep in. And the intensity of me having lost someone very close to me will slowly fade. Without that ritual, without people, being lonely, isolated, miserable, there is no place to go. It's finished. Yeah.
I was just going to say, you say that you don't leave it fair to die, you just know somebody died, there's going to be a ritual that people won't be alone, you won't be alone for the next 20 days. Is that, in a way, because I believe God to be good. I'm not religious, but I believe God to be love. That's why we do certain things we don't know. We just naturally have a feeling of fear for them. I feel like that is a good example of God.
You just need symbols to worship. If alcohol happens to be what works for you, the only thing you need to worry about is becoming an alcoholic. Now, there's a problem, EJ. You're a man. You have physical needs. You have emotional needs. Eventually, at a certain point, you'll just become tired of being a nomad. A nomad is someone who just, a nomad is someone who doesn't have a home. Emotionally, they're just everywhere. If you've seen the movies, The Last Samurai, there's a scene where he's fighting and this kid goes to him and says, too many minds, you have too many minds. And because you have too many minds, you can't focus. And because you can't focus, you can't be a good, swordsman. Be single, be focused, single-minded. And so a nomad is someone who just has no home. And that home can be a physical home, it could be an emotional home, it could be an intellectual home. An intellectual nomad is someone who doesn't have anyone to worship, anyone to listen to. You don't respect anybody. An emotional nomad is you want to become attached to some goddamn person, but there's too much fear, too much doubt. You don't have the faith. So you're just all over the place. And so when you go into relationships, you only give 10% of yourself. And you reserve the 90% for yourself just in case. And you know full well that the relationship is not going to last. The only thing you need to worry about, should you gravitate towards drugs and alcohol, is that there comes a point where you're no longer going to be 18. You're going to be 35, 40. You will, like the rest of us in this class, if you're not by then completely fucked up, you will want like a bona fide, meaningful relationship. And you will enter into them, but the alcohol is not in the way. And, you may find a saintess of a woman who may be on your side for the first 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years because she's blinded by her love for you. After a while, she'll just give up because you're just a piece of shit. Leslie.
Is it possible to regain purpose in that feeling that people had in the past? Like the purpose, the wishes to live, I guess?
The desire to live?
Yeah, no, the desire to live, yeah. Is it possible to regain the purpose and all that people had? Like, mean this is like, is it fully possible to fully regain that? Or even if we are okay in the purpose, will there be some emptiness because of the world we live in?
There is this idea that human beings were born estranged. In other words, there is a part of us that is forever empty and we don't know why. And one of the nice things about religious ideas is that they come down and they say, listen, that part of you is called a soul. Your soul pushes away the physical world. That soul can only be nourished by God or things spiritual. That has been our occupation for many, many thousands of years. And in many countries right now, that particular philosophy still exists. In the West right now, especially in America, that's in the footnotes. For some people, it may be a reality, okay? But for big cities such as this, where life and time move really, really fast, where we are just basically pieces of meat, We are no longer horses with wings, Pegasus. We just walk, from class to class, from class to work, from work to like home. You pass out and that's it. You do the same Groundhog Day after day after day, If you're able to create some symbols for yourself and you can worship those symbols, yeah, you can find meaning in life. Look, let me create an analogy, okay? Imagine I'm your father, and imagine that you were you're 2, okay? Now, for whatever reasons are, I happen to be just a very crummy father. I've been abusive your entire life. You're now 16. Do you know what a man is? No. The only man you know is a man who's abusive. Okay? So when you look out there and you see men, you project your own experiences onto them. All men suck. Okay? Now, do you have physical needs? Absolutely. Will you have sex with men? Yes. Will you have emotional sex? The answer is no. You will have angry sex, yes. But not a sex that's filled with love and intimacy. Because you don't want to be around men. But you do recognize the fact that as a young woman, you have certain needs, and those needs need to be satisfied. Okay? So you enter into these engagements in a very detached way. Okay? At a certain point, you come to realize that you want a meaningful relationship. Are you able to have one? The answer is yes. But there are a couple of things that you need to overcome. You are in the hands of your own history. You're imprisoned by it. And somehow you have to overcome it. Which means that if you and I are in a relationship, you have to abuse me for the next 5-6 years until I can prove to you that I'm a worthy companion. That every time you abuse me, I'm a Jesus Christ, I tell you, okay, turn the other cheek. And you will continue to hit me until there comes a point you say, you know what, I'm just tired of hitting Amir Sabzavari. He's a really, really good man. So the point I'm trying to make, depending on your history, if that history is negative, you have a very, very clever and cunning way of sabotaging your own future. Is there a way to recover from that? Absolutely. Is it hard work? Definitely. Are we creatures that enjoy hard work? The answer is no. Everything is a possibility. It's just hard work. Just in case you happen to find yourself in a life that has no meaning and relevance, start going to church. Start reading the books. And you may go there and look at the building and say, this is really just stupid. And the book is stupid. But just keep doing it. Until hopefully, if you're lucky, all of a sudden they become sacred symbols for you. Can I tell you a story? There was a guy, I don't know what century, 18th, 19th, 20th century. His name was Auguste Comte. He was married to a woman who kind of just lost her mind. He didn't like religion. He's the father of sociology. He fell in love at the age of 30. He fell in love with a young woman. She was, I think, 15 or 16. He went to her father and said, I want your daughter. I want to marry her. And the father says, are you crazy? Too old for her. Get lost and you got no money, no this, no that. He said no. Eventually the young woman fell ill and died. He did something really interesting. He had an artist come to his house and draw a picture of her face. And he framed it, put it on his wall. Every single day he worshipped that picture. Then he gave birth, created a cult. At the very top, he was the God that people worshipped. The point I'm trying to make, you're dealing with a man who didn't believe in religion, who didn't believe in God. He believed in society. He believed in human beings. But at the end of the day, he needed something to worship. And he recognized that people also need something to worship. You're a woman. which means that at a certain point, should you desire to have children, those kids of yours, you will worship them. At least for the first like 10, 15, 20 years. Once their innocence slowly is stolen by life, you'll either outcast them, or because you're a mother, you will do whatever you can to forgive them. And that's the nice thing about motherhood and women. You have something to worship. Men, okay. Ali?
So why is it important to believe in something bigger than yourself, like a higher being? Because I grew up Catholic and I grew up going to church. I went to summer school or Sunday school, and I had a holy thing. But even now, I don't think I really believe that I grew up. That was when I really had to grow up to believe it in the church. So why is it so important to believe something higher than yourself, like a higher being?
Why don't you drop out of school? Just drop out. Be okay with who and what you are and what you have. Because there's an image of you that exists 5, 10, 20 years down the road. Your mom went to Berkeley. Your dad is also a graduate. There is an image of yourself that you have, that you're going to end up with a master's or a PhD. That's something you believe in. That right now you're in school because you feel your own insufficiencies. And you also have this thing called the superego given to you by your parents. That, Ali, you can do better. You're not going to stay at Laney. You're going to go to Stanford. And you're not just going to get a master's. Your parents will push you to get at least a master's degree. And maybe even, knowing your mom, she'll push you towards a PhD. Okay? And there comes a point that wouldn't even be enough. You want to get married and you want to get children. Buy them, have them, whatever, And the point I'm trying to make is what Leah had asked, is that right now you're at a certain point in life where you want to figure things out on your own. And that happens to all young adults. You get rid of all the stuff of your parents and you want to go out there, spread your wings and see where you land, The truth is, no one can escape from their past. No one can. There comes a point that maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, you'll find yourself in church. And you will believe in things that you've been rejecting for the past 20 years. The head of the Catholic Church is a man named Jesus Christ. What is it that he embodies? Perfection, forgiveness, compassion, sacrifice. Parents sacrifice for their kids, Jesus sacrificed for entire humanity. Wisdom. These are wonderful things to seek. And these are wonderful things to embody. Where else are you going to go to find them? You're talking about Jesus, who is not only beautiful on the outside, but also beautiful on the inside. Socrates is an ugly man. Historically. He was known to be a very, very worse than Stoopnog. Right? But he had such a beautiful soul that when you were around him, his face even looked beautiful. We all need something to believe in. You're in school because you believe in your future. That's what we are. And we are future oriented. In other words, you're not just here to exist in the moment and have fun in the moment. 20 years from now, you're going to see yourself, you have a different image of yourself. So you know what this class is about, Ali? No, it's about, I mean, yeah, but no, I mean, yeah, I suppose a little bit of everything, really. But it's about me selling you ideas from the past, and hoping that you're at the right place in life to be a relatively good customer. Maybe for a minute, maybe for a day, maybe for 2 days, maybe for a month. Maybe you'll just change your major into philosophy, and you'll kind of be baited by these beliefs that even though you want to like run away from them or free yourself from them, there is something profoundly attractive in these ideas. One of the things you need to understand about what culture does, belief system. Consider the belief and the ceremonies revolving around marriage. It has taken us many, many thousands of years to come up with philosophy of marriage. It has taken us many thousands of years to come up with the philosophy of monogamy, because human beings are not monogamous. Okay? We are creatures after beauty. And the problem is, beauty is very tempting. And you want to touch beauty, you want to taste beauty, you want to be around beauty. Okay? Now, it is true that, sometimes physically you can't be monogamous, sometimes emotionally you can't be monogamous, sometimes you can be monogamous physically but not emotionally. Okay? Sometimes you can be emotionally monogamous but not physically. Okay? The moment you say, I don't believe in the philosophy of marriage, what you are saying is humanity has spent thousands of years giving birth to a philosophy to sustain people. And you at the age of 18 are dismissing thousands of years of hard work. And you say, you know what, I'm going to figure this out on my own. You can't. It's impossible. The world is big, it's complex, and you don't have the sufficient tools. It's like all of a sudden going blind and then saying, I'm going to figure this out on my own. Culture, it's not easy to create stories. It takes 1,000 years at least. If you're wondering why America is the way it is, it's only 200 years old. It's insufficient time to create good stories that sustain people. Do you ever see mass shootings in India, in China, in Iran, in Pakistan? No. In many parts of Africa? No. Why? Culture is ancient. People get bullied all the time. Poverty is the biggest bullier of all. And yet the culture is there to sustain and protect people. But when you have a culture that is young, and people are pushed into believing in whatever, then you have, So yeah, it's good to believe in something. And believe in things that have some maturity and culture to them. Don't believe in an 18-year-old Ariana Grande shit. Great voice, but don't get me wrong. She's great. She's great. I mean, for a tiny little woman to have such a big voice, it's like a mouse singing like an elephant. It's amazing. Lay, what's going on? Leah. Look, you guys, the thing I mentioned to you the first day of this class, which is, if you like some of the questions or some of the ways that people are in this room, get their phone number. Hang out in coffee shops. Create your own community of friendships. Hang out with them. Don't come to this class alone and don't leave alone. Make some good friendships and talk about ideas. Read books together. Yeah.
If memory and perception can distort our sense of self, then how do we know who we are?
Can I tell you a story, Leah? Was that you? Don't do that. I'll create a story. I had a friend, and he had come from Iraq, and he was in war with Iran for about almost 10 years. You know, he didn't have parents. It was a mess. So that's self number one. You're born in an environment that is vicious and hostile, and you see a lot of dead people around you, you kill a lot of people, you bury a lot of people, and so you have a lot of trauma. That becomes who and what you are. He travels to the mountains, goes to Pakistan, ends up in India, goes to France, ends up in America. Puts himself through college. He begins to read books. And all of a sudden now there are two parts of him. There's a self that enjoys reading. And this self that enjoys reading begins to examine the self that is so aggressive and so traumatized. And little by little, because of reading and thinking, he tames this part of him. But he still doesn't want to be in a relationship. He runs into a woman. And this woman understands what war does to people. She also understood that he is intellectually educated, but he can't become intimate because he's scared of losing people. So she trains him. She loved him, so she trained him. And the point I'm trying to make is that your environment makes you and your environment breaks you. If there is a self that's dominant and that self is broken, there is a good chance that you want to repair it, but it's not going to repair. You can't repair yourself because most of you is broken. What you need is the following. You need to put yourself in an environment where other forces in that environment have the power to create a brand new self. And this new self and this old self are going to wrestle. And if you have the support system, this new self will win out. Nobody creates who and what they are. Everyone is engineered. They're created. The only trick is, just in case there are things you don't like about yourself, put your physical body in physical spaces that contain different forces. Those forces create different brain waves. You will begin to think differently and feel differently. That's the only way. We are far too blind, Leah, to repair ourselves. Doesn't work. The problem with the American culture is that it's a how-to culture. I can do it on my own culture. Fuck everybody else. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. No one can do it. Any of in this class you have issues, you cannot do it on your own. Either read a lot of books, seek a lot of therapy, but most importantly, have a lot of people around you who like you, care for you, love you. So when you're broken, they can be around you. There's no other way that I know of. Yes. What do you?
I don't have no words. Because every time I mention something about God, you shut me down. So don't worry, it'll be a question for tonight. We can go.
You want to go where?
It's time to go.
You want to go where? It's good to see all of you. Take care.
Have a good day.
That's okay. It's good. Thank you.
I have a question. I was trying to sign up for the class for the philosophy 6 emotions, and the permission number you gave me said it was wrong.
Send me an email.
I sent you an email. I'll send you an email.
Send me another one, and I'll give you a permission code today.
When does it start?
Next week.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's online.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll send you an email.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Bye. Okay. Bye. You take care, EJ. Good luck on the car.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, take 2 or 3 or 4.
Okay.
Tea.
I was looking.
Yeah.
You know what? I can still submit this on.
Yeah.
I can still submit.
Yeah, just email me.
Okay. All right. Sure. Thank you, man. I was worried. Sure. Thank you.
So nice to you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Mariano might come by on Thursday. I don't know.
Who was?
Mariano.
Okay.
Yeah, he's trying to figure it out because of like school and stuff.
Oh, I know. He's married, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That makes things very complicated.
Yeah.
So you